I said that my daughter inherits my house no matter what. So, I'm in my 50s, and I bought this house in the Bay Area like 30 years ago for $230,000. Back then, nobody wanted to live here. Now, it's worth over $1 million because of all the tech people moving in. I got insanely lucky with the timing. My daughter Camila is to 3. She grew up in this house. Every room has a memory. Her height marks are still on the kitchen doorframe. She moved out last year to live with her boyfriend. But obviously the house was always going to be hers someday. We never sat down and had some formal conversation about it. But come on, she's my only kid. Who else would get it? Here's the thing about my neighborhood now. There's only 2 houses left that aren't owned by people making 6 figures in tech. Mine and my neighbor Jim, who bought around the same time I did. Everyone else, software engineers, people who work at Google. Camila works as a hairstylist. She loves her job. But let's be real. She can't afford to buy anything here without this house. She'd have to move 2 hours away just to afford rent. 2 years ago, I met Steven. He's great. He has 2 kids from his previous marriage, both in elementary school. And I actually love those kids. I was excited about becoming a stepmom to them. We started talking about getting married and combining our lives completely. Steven brought up finances and I agreed we should merge everything. But I told him I wanted a prenup specifically for the house. The house goes to Camila no matter what. Non-negotiable. He got quiet. Then he said he thought $1 million split 3 ways between all the kids would be fair. Give everyone $300,000 each to start their lives. I said no. I paid 80% of that mortgage by myself over 30 years. Camila is my daughter. This is her inheritance. With this house, she can keep working as a hairstylist and actually live in the area she grew up in. Without it, she's priced out of her own home. Steven said I was being unfair to his kids. That Camila was getting a massive advantage, and his children would get nothing from me. I reminded him that I've known his kids for 2 years. I've known Camila for 23 years. I carried her. I raised her alone. The house is hers. He said if we're really becoming a family, then all the kids should be treated equally, I said. They are being treated equally in every other way. But this house is Camila's, it always has been, we fought about it for weeks. He kept saying $300,000 each is still life-changing money. I kept saying Kama loses her ability to live in her own hometown if we do that. She'd have to move somewhere cheaper and start over. I finally called Camila and asked her directly what she thought. She said she'd always assumed the house was hers. She'd been planning her future around it. She wants to stay in the area, maybe open her own salon someday, and she can only do that if she has the house. Steven overheard that conversation. He got mad and said Camila was being selfish. I told him to stop. This is between me and my daughter. He said if I go through with the prenup, then maybe we shouldn't get married at all, I said. Then maybe we shouldn't. I told Steven the prenup happens or the wedding doesn't. He moved out last week. He took his kids' stuff from my house and said, I made my choice. Steven walked out of the door without looking back. For a moment, the house felt painfully quiet, like every sound had been sucked out of it. I stood there in the living room, suddenly aware of how many traces of him were still around his mug on the counter, his jacket still hanging on the hook by the door, the kids' drawings stuck to my fridge with magnets, all the small signs of a life I thought I was building. But underneath the sadness was something else too, relief. A strange, guilty relief that at least the arguing was over. At least I didn't have to keep defending something that should never have needed defending. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table. I ran my fingers over the faded pencil marks on the doorframe, the ones showing how Camila grew year after year. Age 6, age 11, age 16, I remembered exactly how she smiled when she stood up straight against the frame, proud of every new inch. Steven's kids had their drawings on my fridge, sure. But this house held Camila's entire childhood in its walls. And suddenly, the guilt I'd been carrying, the feeling that maybe I was being too rigid, just evaporated. No, this house wasn't a pile of money. It wasn't some asset to be split between people who barely lived in it. It was a promise. It was stability. It was everything I fought for as a single mother. The next morning, Steven texted, I hope you reconsider. My kids deserved a future too. That hurt because I never said they didn't. I cared about them. I still do. But providing for his kids isn't my responsibility, it's his. Just like providing for Camila was always mine. His message felt like he was trying to guilt-trip me into giving up the one thing that represented my entire life's work. I put my phone down and didn't respond. 2 days later, he came back to pick up a few more things. He didn't ask to talk. I didn't either. We just existed in the same room with a wall of silence between us. Before he left, he paused at the doorway and said, You're choosing the past over building a future. I looked him in the eyes and said, No, I'm choosing my daughter. After he left for good, I called Camila. She rushed over within 20 minutes. The moment she walked inside, she hugged me tight. Mom, you didn't have to do all that because of me. But she didn't understand. I didn't do it because of her. I did it for the version of me who worked 2 jobs to keep this house. For the version of me who cried over bills and still made it work somehow. For the version of me who promised that one day, my daughter would have something solid to stand on. We sat on the couch and talked for a long time. She told me she felt guilty that my relationship ended over this. I told her the truth. If a man wants a piece of your past more than he wants a life with you, he was never the right man. Over the next week, something shifted inside me. I started noticing all the little freedoms returning. No more walking on eggshells. No more quiet tension when money came up. No more fear of losing something that should have been safe. The house felt like mine again. Not shared, not threatened, not negotiable. Mine and Sunday, hers. Last night, I cooked dinner for just me and Camila. We ate at the same table where we used to do her homework. For the first time in months, the house felt warm again, not because Steven was gone, but because there wasn't a question mark hanging over our heads anymore. After dinner, Camila turned to me and said, Mom, someday, when I have kids, I want to put their height marks right next to mine, and just like that, every doubt that had ever crossed my mind vanished. This house wasn't just a building. It was a legacy, a story. A timeline of our lives carved into the wood and painted into the walls. Maybe Steven will think I'm cold. Maybe people will say I chose money over love. But they don't know the truth. I didn't choose money. I chose roots. I chose history. I chose the life I built with my own hands. And most importantly, I chose my daughter's future over a man who expected to rewrite it. Story to my nephew brought a fake social worker to take my house. I texted my former students. 217 successful adults appeared on my lawn. His face went pale. Chapter 1, The Visit. The late October rain fell in silver threads across my porch light. The kind of cold drizzle that makes everything feel smaller, quieter, older. I was sitting by the window grading practice essays from the neighborhood kids I still tutored. When my doorbell rang, through the frosted glass, I saw him. My nephew Derek, tailored coat, polished shoes. A look of purpose that didn't belong to a family visit. I opened the door. Uncle Rob, he said, voice thick with false warmth, we need to talk. It's about your future. He didn't wait to be invited in. He brushed past me, bringing the smell of cologne and entitlement into my living room. The same room where I'd once sat with struggling teenagers, coaxing fractions, and self-worth out of them now became his stage. He dropped a folder onto my coffee table. Official seals, signatures, and large black letters. Notice of foreclosure. Bank says they're calling your mortgage next week, he announced, almost rehearsed. I spoke to a lawyer. We can avoid embarrassment if we act now. Embarrassment? I asked softly, for who? He sighed like a man burdened by someone else's foolishness. For you, of course. You've done enough, Uncle Rob. But you can't manage a house like this anymore. I've already spoken to Maple Grove Retirement Community. They have a room ready. You'll love it there. Quiet, safe, supervised. He flipped another page, sliding a pen toward me. These are power of attorney papers. Mom and Dad will handle your mortgage, taxes, all that adult stuff. You just need to sign here. He smiled, confident. It was the same smile he used when he got away with something as a kid, only sharper now. Honed by greed. I leaned back, studying the young man who once sat on my lap at Christmas, who now looked at me as if I were a burden to be removed. Who told you I was losing my mind, Derek? I asked. He gave a small shrug. Everyone sees it. You forget things. You lost your car at the grocery store. I walked that day. I said, exercise. He ignored it. Uncle Rob, you're retired. You don't need this house. You don't need the stress. My parents could really use a space. You'd be helping them. There it was. The truth finally stepping out from under his fake concern. Linda, my sister, had fallen on hard times after her husband's business collapsed. Derek saw my paid-off house not as a home but as a lifeboat, and I was a plank he meant to throw overboard. I looked at the papers on the table, then at him. Derek, I said evenly, you've done your homework. But so have I, and the first lesson I ever taught my students was to always check your sources. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means this house isn't just a property. I tapped the table gently. The same table where I'd once taught algebra, chemistry, and courage. It's a classroom. Every mark on this wood was left by someone who learned they mattered here. You want to take that away for profit? He rolled his eyes. Uncle Rob, please. You're making this emotional. It's just real estate. I smiled faintly. Then you've never learned what makes something priceless. He gathered his folder. Mistaking my calm for surrender. Think about it, he said, heading for the door. I'll come back with the social worker on Thursday. We'll finalize everything. When the door closed behind him, I looked around my living room. The bookshelf lined with binders, the photographs along the wall, each one a story. I thought about the hundreds of young faces that had once filled this house with life. Derek saw an old man in an empty home. He didn't see the invisible family that still lived in every frame, every memory, every thank you card tacked above my desk. He didn't know that this teacher had taught more than equations. He taught resilience, loyalty, justice. And in a few days, he learned that some lessons hit harder when they come due. Chapter to dot the photographs and the plan. That night, I couldn't sleep. Rain ticked against the window like a metronome counting down to Thursday, the day Derek planned to return with his social worker. Instead of going to bed, I wandered the hallway, switching on the soft lamp that illuminated the wall of my life. 317 photographs, each one carefully framed, each one telling a story Derek never cared to ask about. A young man in a cap and gown, Marcus Chen, once a failing sophomore who could barely pass physics, now a senior aerospace engineer at Bombardier. A smiling girl holding her first newborn, Aliyah Johnson, who studied here at 16 while pregnant and homeless, now a pharmacist at Sunnybrook Hospital. A YD teenager in front of a science fair project, Priya Sharma, once terrified to speak English, now a family physician in Markham. Every frame whispered the same truth. My legacy wasn't built in savings or property value. It was built in people. Derek had walked past these photos 100 times, seeing only clutter. But I saw an army, quiet, scattered across the country, grown but never gone. And for the first time in years, I picked up my phone and opened my contacts list. I didn't start with a text. I started with a memory. I remembered Marcus slamming his textbook shut in frustration one evening. "I'll never get this, Mr. Sinclair, I'm too dumb." And me saying, "Marcus, intelligence isn't the issue. Belief is that boy had grown into a man who designed aircraft. Belief could move mountains or stop one greedy nephew." At 11:42 p.m., I wrote the first message. Robert Sinclair. "Marcus, it's Mr. Sinclair. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I might need your help with something serious." And he replied in 2 minutes, "Marcus, sir, are you okay? What happened?" "Robert, just some family matters. Someone's trying to take the house." "Marcus, who?" "Robert, my nephew." The typing dots appeared immediately. "Marcus, then he's in trouble. I'm calling Aliyah." "Don't worry, Mr. Sinclair. We're handling this." And just like that, the quiet years between teacher and students vanished. By morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Priya called from her clinic, furious. Aliyah left me 10 voicemails. Even Detective Sarah Martinez from Toronto Police, once a girl who hated statistics until we analyzed crime data together, called to say he's not getting away with this, Mr. Sinclair, for each face in those photographs. A voice now echoed back through the years. Voices that had once trembled with fear or self-doubt were now steady, powerful, professional. My students had grown into the kind of adults any teacher dreams of, and now they were turning that strength toward me. Kevin Park, the 23-year-old student currently renting my spare room while finishing his engineering degree, overheard my calls that morning. "Mr. Sinclair," he said, his jaw tight. "I heard what's happening. You gave me a home when I had none. You're not losing it now." Not to him, I smiled softly. "Kevin, I appreciate that. But no buts," he interrupted. "You always said family is who shows up. So I'm showing up." That sentence, "family is who shows up," stuck with me. Derek had blood, but he had no heart. My students had neither blood nor obligation. Yet they moved like kin. By afternoon, Marcus texted again. "Marcus, Mr. Sinclair, we're forming a plan." "How soon is he coming?" "Robert, Thursday 2 p.m., Marcus. Then you won't be alone." "Not this time." I looked once more at the wall of photographs. So many lives. So many victories born right here. Derek had called this house too big for one person. He was right, because it had never been meant for one person. It was built for everyone who'd ever needed a place to belong. And on Thursday, it would become something else. A classroom for one last unforgettable lesson. Chapter 3, The Phone Calls. By Friday evening, my phone had turned into a switchboard of voices from across decades. Each ring carried a name I hadn't spoken in years. Each voice a reminder of what 32 years of teaching can plant in the world. Marcus called first. His tone as calm and organized as the day he first learned to balance equations. "Mr. Sinclair," he said, "we're mobilizing." "Don't worry about a thing. Mobilizing," I repeated, half amused, half anxious. "You'll see," he replied. "We're treating this like a project launch." Before I could respond, another call buzzed in. It was Aliyah Johnson, her voice still carrying that fierce clarity she forged through hardship. "Mr. Sinclair, we're not letting this happen." Marcus looped me in. "I've got the day off Monday. I'm bringing my husband and girls." "You don't need to." She cut me off. "You didn't ask when I needed a place to study at 16. You just opened your door." Let us return the favor. I had no words. Then came Priya Sharma, the doctor who'd once been a shy teenager afraid to read aloud. I've spoken with a few colleagues, Mr. Sinclair, she said briskly. We're ranging professional presence, doctors, engineers, professors. If your nephew wants to test competence, he'll have to do it in front of half the medical board. By the time I hung up, my call log was full. Professors, police officers, lawyers, business owners, all echoing the same sentiment. You're not alone. Saturday morning, Kevin Park sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by steaming mugs of coffee and sheets of printer paper. He turned my dining room into a command center. Okay, he said, typing fast. We've got 73 confirmed already. Most are within the GTA, we're planning parking, coordination, arrival times. Marcus is handling professional attire coordination. He wants them to look intimidating. I chuckled. That won't be hard. Kevin grinned and Alia suggested everyone bring a small sign, their name, career, and the line student of Robert Sinclair. I stopped mid-sip, the weight of that detail landing somewhere deep in my chest. Are you sure that's not too much? Kevin looked up from his screen. No, Sir. It's exactly enough. By noon, the calls had taken on the rhythm of old memories. Mr. Sinclair, do you remember when I broke your calculator in 11th grade? One voice said, laughing. I still have the pieces, I replied. Well, I'm bringing my whole team from the firm. We owe you. Each conversation ended the same way, we'll be there Monday. The phrase began to feel like an anthem. I realized something powerful then. The lessons I'd spent my life teaching about perseverance and integrity had rooted themselves far deeper than any textbook chapter. These people, once lost teenagers sitting at this very table, had become a living shield. And without my asking, they were coming home. Sunday evening arrived quiet but charged. The house smelled of coffee and old wood polish. Kevin had taped a hand-drawn list to the fridge titled Operation Family. Under it, bullet points. Arrival window 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Monday parking Marcus directing logistics. Attire, professional, respectful behavior. No confrontation, just presence, Operation Family, I murmured, shaking my head. Kevin smiled. You said it yourself. Family is who shows up. Outside, the street lights flickered against wet pavement. I stared out the window, knowing Derek would come, expecting silence and surrender. Instead, he'd walk into the loudest quiet he'd ever known, a sea of dignity, competence, and gratitude. I turned off the lights and went to bed with a feeling I hadn't known since my teaching days. The calm before the final exam. The moment when you know your students are ready to teach their own lesson. Chapter 4. The Monday morning lesson. Monday dawned clear and cold. The kind of crisp autumn air that makes your breath visible like proof you're alive and ready. I woke before sunrise. The house already humming with quiet movement. From downstairs came the soft clatter of dishes. Alia was making breakfast. Her daughter is setting the table like it was Christmas morning. Big day, Mr. Sinclair, she said, smiling as I came down in my pressed shirt and old corduroy jacket. You ready for class? I smiled faintly. Always, outside, headlights glowed faintly against the pale dawn. One by one, cars began to line the street. Mercedes, Teslas, BMWs, Honda Civics. By 7:15, Richmond Hill looked like the parking lot of a luxury convention. Across my front lawn stood doctors, engineers, professors, detectives, and business owners, each holding a small white sign, student of Robert Sinclair. Class of 2002, aerospace engineer. Class of 2010, pharmacist. Class of 2008, police detective. 217 of them, just as Marcus had promised. The sound was strangely quiet. No chants, no yelling, just presence. The kind of silence that says we mean business. Neighbors stepped onto their porches in awe. Mrs. Peterson whispered, Robert, what on earth is happening? I simply said, a lesson in family, Mrs. Peterson, at exactly 8:57 a.m. A black Lexus appeared at the end of the street. Derek's car. He slowed as he saw the crowd. Confusion spreading across his face, then disbelief, then dread. The moving truck behind him stopped halfway up the block. There was no room to pass through the sea of vehicles. Derek stepped out, folder in hand, trying to compose himself as he walked the long path to my front door. Each step sounded louder than the last, the crunch of gravel under his polished shoes echoing like a countdown. When he reached the edge of my lawn, Marcus Chen stepped forward, calm, confident. You must be Derek Morrison, he said evenly. Derek blinked. Who are you? I'm Dr. Marcus Chen, senior aerospace engineer at Bombardier, student of Robert Sinclair. Before Derek could respond, Alia Johnson joined him. Dr. Alia Johnson, pharmacist at Sunnybrook, student of Robert Sinclair. Then Priya Sharma, Dr. Priya Sharma, family physician, student of Robert Sinclair. Then Detective Sarah Martinez, badge glinting in the morning light. Toronto Police Service, student of Robert Sinclair. The introductions kept coming, one after another until Derek stood surrounded. 217 accomplished adults, each announcing the same name, Robert Sinclair. His lips parted, but no sound came. He looked around helplessly, his parents frozen behind him. His mother's eyes were wide. His father looked ready to sink into the pavement. Finally, I stepped onto the porch. "Good morning, Derek," I said quietly. "I believe you came to discuss my housing situation." The crowd parted as I walked down toward him. Slow, steady steps through the sea of my students. Every face carried history. The children they once were, the adults they became. Derek stammered. "Uncle Rob, this isn't what it looks like." I was trying to help. Alia's voice cut through the air. "Help? By hiring a fake social worker to declare him incompetent?" Sarah held up a file. "We've already checked. Patricia Novak isn't a registered social worker. She's a retirement placement consultant you paid." The color drained from Derek's face. You don't understand." "No," Marcus said firmly. "You don't understand what this house means. This isn't real estate. This is where we became who we are." A ripple of agreement moved through the crowd. Priya's voice trembled but held strong. "He taught me English when I couldn't speak a full sentence. Because of him, I treat families now, real families, with compassion." Alia added, "He believed in me when no one else would." "You call him old." "We call him the reason we're here." Derek turned toward his parents. "Mom, Dad, say something." Linda's face was pale, her voice breaking. "Derek, I think you've said enough." Silence fell. Even the wind seemed to stop. I stepped closer until I was standing directly in front of my nephew. "You wanted to teach me about real family, Derek," I said softly. "So?" I invited mine. He swallowed hard, his eyes flicking to the rows of determined faces. I gestured toward the crowd. "They're not my blood, but they're my life's work. Every one of them is part of this house, part of me. That's what family means." The moving truck driver approached, clipboard in hand. Sir?" he said to Derek, glancing nervously at the crowd. "We can't get through. Should I reschedule?" Derek's voice cracked. "Cancel it." Marcus tilted his head. "Louder, please. Cancel everything." Derek shouted, his voice breaking. A hush fell. Then, almost in unison, the crowd began to applaud, not for humiliation, but for closure, for justice. As I looked around, surrounded by the faces of generations I'd helped shape, I realized Derek had finally received an education worth remembering. And I didn't even have to grade it. Final chapter, the aftermath and the lesson. By noon, the story had already spread beyond Richmond Hill. Neighbors had filmed everything. The line of cars, the quiet formation of professionals. The moment Derek whispered, "Cancel everything," by evening, the video hit CBC Toronto under the headline, "Former students defend beloved teacher from nephew's foreclosure scam." Within hours, the clip racked up thousands of views. By midnight, hundreds of comments poured in. "This is what real family looks like. He raised a generation not by blood but by heart. That nephew just got schooled in the most poetic way possible." I didn't read most of them. I just sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where it had all started, listening to the faint hum of voices still lingering in my house. Alia and her daughters were washing dishes. Marcus sat at the table, laptop open, updating something. Kevin was labeling boxes marked Scholarship Fund. "Scholarship Fund?" I asked. Marcus looked up and smiled. "Yes, sir. The Robert Sinclair Education Fund. Donations have already started coming in. Over $120,000 in the first 6 hours. York University is helping us manage it. You're going to keep changing lives, Mr. Sinclair. Just on a larger scale." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The fallout for Derek was swift and merciless. His employer, a real estate consulting firm, called the next morning. They couldn't keep someone publicly accused of manipulating a senior citizen. His contract was terminated. His girlfriend left him within days. And when his parents realized the full extent of what he'd done, they sold their belongings and moved north to Thunder Bay, too ashamed to face the community. For weeks, I received handwritten letters and mails, even newspaper interviews. Teachers from across Ontario reached out saying they'd been inspired to start free tutoring programs of their own. 32 years of teaching. I told Kevin one evening, "And this is the first time I've seen the lesson come full circle." He smiled. "You taught them math, Mr. Sinclair. But they learned integrity." Spring came early that year. The snow melted from my front lawn, revealing patches of green where the students had stood. Footprints fading into grass. Life returned to its old rhythm. Tutoring, reading, quiet evenings. And then one afternoon in May, I heard the sound of a car pulling into my driveway. A black sedan. Derek stepped out. He looked thinner, older, humbled. His eyes held none of the arrogance they once did. He approached slowly, holding a small box in his hands. "Uncle Rob," he said quietly. May I come in? I hesitated, then nodded, of course. He sat at the same kitchen table where he'd once spread his fake documents. I owe you an apology, he began, his voice cracked. I was wrong. About family, about you, about what matters. He slid the box across the table. Inside was a single framed photo of me and Linda, his mother, taken in 1987 at my first classroom. She wanted you to have this, he said softly. She says she's sorry, too. I looked at the photo, then at him. Apology accepted, Derek, but forgiveness, that takes work. I'm ready for it, he said, eyes glistening. I believed him. That night, I returned to my hallway of photographs. The wall that had once been a gallery of memories was now a monument of proof that one life dedicated to others can echo through generations. At the very end of the row, I hung a new picture, a panoramic photo of that Monday morning. 217 people standing shoulder to shoulder across my lawn. The family I chose and who chose me. Beneath it, I placed a small plaque with the words that had carried us all through. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up when you need them most. And as I turned off the light, the house, once a classroom, then a battleground, felt peaceful again. Because some lessons last longer than a lifetime. And the truest revenge is leaving behind a legacy no one can steal. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. If you are watching this video, comment below and tell us where you are watching this video from. Hit like if you crave justice and share the story with someone who needs its fire.